Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man? They say murder three. Strange things that happen here. How stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree?
Welcome to Strange Things, broadcasting from the Raimundo Rios Mayo Library in Arkanasa. And welcome to the show. I'm your host, Chris James. Tonight, we're going to be talking about crop circles. This is March 11th, 2017, season number 2, episode 11. Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of the Organic Man Coffee Trike. We had a big get-together to celebrate 365 days in business. My wife read some of her poetry, and there was some live music to entertain people. The place was filling up around 3 o'clock, so we had to run. Things to do. It was a great job by Julio and Marta. Drop by today and wish them a best of luck. The Organic Man Coffee Trike, 1002 Iturbide. And remember, life is too short to drink bad coffee. I've never been a serologist. The subject of crop circles never found its way into my life. I had other things to look into, like UFOs and Bigfoot. But like a lot of other things, my curiosity gland is in overdrive, so I started looking at these artworks in the fields. I realized that there are folks out there making these things, and some of them are quite good. However, not all crop circles can be explained as hoaxes. There have been crop circles out in the middle of nowhere, placed there by someone or something that didn't care if their work was appreciated or not. There are lots of hoaxers out there, but every single one of them has one thing in common. They want the fruits of their labor to be seen and talked about. We'll go over some of the possibilities as to who or what might be responsible, but before we talk about crop circles, most folks know something about, let's get into a little known circle that maybe not in a crop. It's in the middle of a forest. I'm talking about the Hoia Baciu. That's the haunted forest in Romania. It just happens to be located in part of Romania known as Transylvania. If you've listened to the show a lot, you'll know that there really is a Transylvania, and that was where Vlad the Impaler, better known as Count Dracula, lived and did some of his nastiness. The forest is not very big. It covers just over 1 square mile. All around it is farmland, but not one small plot of land is more than anything in the world. For some odd reason, that one small forest, if you can call a 1 mile square area forest, is untouched by the locals. One of the strangest things about the haunted Romanian forest is some of its geology. Within the forest is a strange circle that no plant life likes to grow in. The circle is about 1,000 feet across and is a near perfect circle. The soil tests have not been able to explain this phenomena. The samples pulled from the circle are the same as those found in the rest of the wooded area. Well, the lifeless circle is there, and usually at the center of most paranormal tales coming from this forest. The Romanian name, Baci, as in Baciu, is translated as sheep herder. The legend says a herd of over 200 sheep were driven into the forest by their shepherd, and they vanished without a trace. 200 sheep, along with the shepherd, should have left behind considerable evidence of their being in the area. But searchers found they had simply vanished. Now you can walk from one side of this forest to the other in about 20 minutes. But sheep and shepherd were gone. There is also a story of a 5-year-old girl who disappeared one day into the forest. She remained missing for 5 years. Searchers were unable to find any trace of her. And then, one day, out of nowhere, the girl showed back up. And she was wearing the exact same clothes that she had been wearing when she disappeared 5 years previous. Plus, she hadn't aged a bit. This sounds like some kind of a time travel phenomena. Others who have entered the woods haven't been as lucky. They go in, but they never return. Most locals won't go near the place. There are those adventurous folks who do. The circle has signs of numerous campfires from those willing to risk the unknown to either investigate or simply show off how crazy people can be. Some paranormal investigators think the forest circle is a portal to another dimension. There are something in the neighborhood of over 1,000 disappearances in the Achu Bachu forest. Back in the 60s, the forest was a UFO hotspot with dozens of sightings. One researcher went in to photograph UFOs. He spent a few days and suddenly he grew ill. His symptoms were the same as if he were suffering from radiation poisoning, but the forest showed no signs of radiation. He died shortly thereafter, and surprisingly, all of his photos vanished. There are sections of the forest where the trees are all bent in extraordinary ways. The trees look as if they were growing straight across the ground, and then they turned up towards the sky. Whole sections of these weird-looking trees. It looks as if a horrendous wind had come through, but only in one small section of the forest. If you look at our Facebook page, Strange Things with Chris James, you'll see a picture of that section of the woods. Witnesses say they've seen ghostly images and sometimes they hear voices. A common audio is what sounds like women laughing. Others hear what sound like talking, but no words are discernible. Kind of a mumbling whisper in the background. The photographs show strange-looking beings huddled behind trees where the photographer swears no one was standing. Then there are lights that are seen through the trees. Some stationary while others move through the dark as if looking for something or someone. The lights have been seen by many, yet there are still no answers as to what they are and where they originate. On more than one occasion, a black fog has claimed parts of the forest. It creeps along the ground, looking like fog, only blacker than smoke. There is no explanation for this. Some trees show what look like scorch marks on their bark. They look as if a forest raged through the area, but only affecting some trees while ignoring their neighbors. We're going to take a brief pause here, play a couple commercials. We'll be right back, so don't go away. You're listening to Arkanasa Radio. Do you have skin? Would you like to take better care of it? Call Lourdes James, independent beauty consultant, and set up an appointment. Call 723-3019. If your vision isn't what it used to be, and you're not sure you're seeing Bigfoot or just your neighbor mowing his lawn, stop on by Del Norte Optical, 107 Calle del Norte, just across the street from the Embassy Suites. You should be able to see what you're looking at. Looking for a great cup of coffee? Swing on by the Organic Man Coffee Trike, 1002 Iturbide, suite number 7. Not a coffee drinker? They have hot chocolate, hot tea, and sometimes muffins and cookies. It's a great place to meet your friends for a conversation or curl up in the corner with a good book. The Organic Man Coffee Trike. Life is too short to drink bad coffee.
Say goodbye.
No, don't say goodbye. Stay with us. This is Arcanasa Radio. Quédate con nosotros. Estás escuchando Arcanasa Radio.
You're listening to Strange Things with Chris James. And welcome back to the show. Now, in this Aciu Bacio, that forest in Romania, it's in Romanian, and I don't speak the language, researchers have found heightened electromagnetic fields that have been reported in the circle. Researchers find their equipment tends to stop working soon after entering the forest. The best photos are from the past, before digital photography. The old wind-up and click-the-shutter type cameras didn't use electricity, so there were fewer things that could go wrong. Many locals believe that if you wander into the Ahai Baciu forest, you'll never return. It sounds kind of like the Bermuda Triangle of Romania. No one can say why this one circle of land is barren, and for some mysterious reason, animals will not go through there. The Destination Truth team, with Josh Gates, went into the forest and they caught one of the best episodes to date. The crew were taking turns, sitting in the center of the circle at night and seeing what kind of bizarre things they could experience. Evan, the cameraman, was sitting with his legs crossed in the circle. He thought he heard female voices behind him. Suddenly, he was yanked backwards off the ground, and he lands several yards behind where he had been sitting. There were scratches all along his arms, even though he was wearing a long-sleeved shirt. No one has ever been able to explain this scene. You can go to YouTube and search for Best Expedition Truth Ever in order to watch it. Evan quit the team right after this happened. The searchers for the history of this haunted forest don't return many results. It has only become widely known since the 60s, but apparently locals have avoided the land and associated it with evil for centuries. They all think the forest circle was the scene of the murder of hundreds of peasants. Vlad did have a way of dealing with his prisoners. Maybe there is something to this story. The ground is said to absorb energy. If hundreds were killed in a violent and painful manner, could their energy have sunk into the land and warped it to a point that trees and animals just don't want anything to do with it? So what is the explanation for the Ahai Baciu? Is there something that history has forgotten about this strange forest? Is this forest filled with ghosts, spirits, and evil, as the locals suggest? Or could it be UFOs to blame, as some have suggested? If you want more on the Ahai Baciu forest, look for the Expanded Perspectives podcast from June 20th, 2016. They have some more to say about this weird place. There are other places on Earth that seem to share lifeless circles similar to the Aibachu. One famous example is the Devil's Tramping Ground in North Carolina that has also remained unexplained for generations. Since the 1700s, the Devil's Tramping Ground is a mystery. It's perfectly round and absolutely barren circle, about 40 feet in diameter, and in the middle of the pine woods of Chatham County. No trees, flowers, weeds, not even a blade of grass will grow inside the radius of the circle. Seed sown in the circle refuses to grow. Any vegetation transplanted there will wither and die. And what's even stranger, any objects left in the circle before dusk will have been violently removed before dawn. Dogs have been known to tuck their tail between their legs and whimper whenever they're brought near. The frightened animal will dig in their heels into the sand and refuse to be brought into the circle. Researchers have tried to spend the night in the circle, but no one has made it until dawn without suddenly leaving or losing their mind. Something they see or hear, maybe it's only in their mind, but something drives them away or it drives them mad. It is said that this is where the devil himself walks. The mystery of the Devil's Tramping Ground has been known since Chatham County was founded shortly before the Revolutionary War. The story has been passed down from generation to generation, and despite efforts by scientists to explain this barren patch of land, no satisfactory explanation has ever been given. And now for the crop circles. A crop circle, or crop formation, is a pattern created by flattening a crop, usually a cereal, a wheat, or oats. The term was first coined in early 1980s by Colin Andrews. Crop circles have been described as all falling within the range of some kind of a hoax. The original culprits were two old guys with nothing better to do than destroy somebody's crop. In 1991, Bauer and Corley took credit for having created many circles throughout England, after one of their circles was described by a circle investigator as being impossible to be made by human. Now, I know that's what they said, but what evidence did they have saying they did all that work all over England just because they were bored? For a couple of old guys, they sure were able to travel all over the country, slipping into people's fields, destroying crops, which would have taken money out of the hands of the landowners' pockets, just because of boredom? They claim to have made more than 200 crop circles from 1978 until 1991. Now, how hard is it to say, I did that, and that one too, and that one over there? A number of crop circles has substantially increased from 1970s to current time. There has been little scientific study of them. The circles in the United Kingdom are not spread randomly across the landscape, but they usually appear near roads, areas of medium to dense population, and cultural heritage monuments, such as Stonehenge or Avebury. Formations are usually created at night, although some are reported to have appeared during the day. The reason most crop circles are near roads is so that folks will see them and talk about it. That and the fact that if you're going to be trespassing and you don't much care about being caught, you want a quick escape route. Back in 1678, a news pamphlet called The Mowing Devil, or Strange News out of Hertfordshire, is claimed by some Cereologists to be the first depiction of a crop circle. crop circle researcher Jim Schnabel does not consider it to be a historical precedent because it describes the stalks as being cut rather than bent. Back in 1678, if you came across a field where the crop was all down on the ground in a pattern, you probably wouldn't venture out into what just might be the domain of the devil to see if the crop had been cut or simply laid down. No, you'd probably run to town to get the priest to come chase away any unknown spirits that might still be lurking in the area. As far as being mown, the crop may just have been laid down as well. So let's not try to nitpick about cut or stomped, and I'm going to call this one a crop circle. 1880, Gulford, England. This is an old news article written in a magazine called Nature that they claim was written in English. The wording is a bit weird. Here's what the article said. The storms about this part of Surrey have been lately local and violent, and the effects produced in some instances curious. Visiting a neighbor's farm on Wednesday evening, 21st, we found a field of standing wheat considerably knocked about, not as an entirety, but in patches, forming, as viewed from a distance, circular spots. Examined more closely, these all presented much the same character, viz., a few standing stalks at the center, some prostrate stalks with their heads arranged pretty evenly in the direction forming a circle around the center, and outside these a circular wall of stalks which had not suffered. Now that hurt my tongue just trying to say it all. This sounds as if the writer didn't know what he was doing, but keep in mind, the English language has changed a lot over the years. Back then, you didn't have a book that you could look up how to put certain things into print. So if you knew how to write, you were far ahead the common man, and anything you put down on paper was considered correct. That's why Old English sometimes is so difficult to read. They claim it's English, but I don't know. Anyway, this next crop circle was found in 1904. A woman named Constance Wheeler wrote to the Reading Evening Post. She described the formation as consisting of 6 circles. 4 were bigger than the other 2. Constance said the circles were as big as the room in a house. I really doubt these 2 old guys would have been around to create this crop circle. Then, in 1937, in Sussex, England, what looked like several crop circles were photographed. This would be the first crop circle photographs ever taken. 4 circles had been spotted in the field, and somebody was impressed enough to grab his camera and fire off a few shots. Now, this wasn't like today where you see something and click 20 photos and then find out it was nothing. Back then, you had to load the film, then focus, click the pictures. Once the film was full, you had to take it to a studio to be processed. All of this took time and money. The circles are described as being about 150 feet across, with 3 along in a slightly bent row and 1 towards the top. The barley was laid down around the edges, and it was slightly mounded in the center. It was theorized the crop circles were the remnants of an old archaeological formation, but nobody ever got around to digging up the ground to see if there's anything down there. If it was an old archaeological foundation, why are the circles not in line? Why are they kind of in a bent formation with one completely out of line? Early 1940s, in an area known as Mill End in Herefordshire, England, had some weird unexplained artwork. A Mrs. Starmore reported seeing a pictogram with 3 circles connected together by a short pathway. The kids would play in the circles, thinking they might have been made by German paratroopers. The circles had appeared in several fields in the area. These circles were well defined, they had sharp edges. The crops had been swirled down into a pattern. It would almost appear as if England has the market cornered when it comes to crop circles. Well, here are a few reports found in Texas. Near Fort Worth, in Tarrant County, back in May 1968, a cotton farmer living south of Fort Worth, Texas, discovered a 5-foot diameter, burnt and flattened area in his field. The circle was surrounded by a wider, flattened, egg-shaped area, which was also burnt, but not quite as badly. In the whole of the depressed area, the soil was extremely dried out, resembling a piece of glazed pottery. Upon receiving word of the circle, the United States Air Force sent a team of approximately 20 men in 2 helicopters to the site, where they took soil samples and radiation readings, and then they quickly left. The farmer tried planting new cotton in the area, but the first planting didn't grow. The second planting came up sickly looking. The third planting seemed to take hold unaffected. Now, could this have been a landing site for a UFO, or some other mysterious cause this circle? Several people in Grapevine, Texas, saw a beam of white light coming out of the sky and touching the ground. This was on May 4th, 1974. It left a circle surrounded by a ring in the vegetation. Now, this sounds like such a cool report. However, that was it. The whole report was one line. If you ever find yourself the witness to some otherworldly event, please brush up your writing skills and put down some information in print. We're going to take a brief pause here, play a couple more commercials. Don't go away. We'll be right back after this. You're listening to Arkanasa Radio. Do you have skin? Would you like to take better care of it? Call Lourdes James, independent beauty consultant, and set up an appointment. Call 723-3019. If your vision isn't what it used to be, and you're not sure you're seeing Bigfoot or just your neighbor mowing his lawn, stop on by Del Norte Optical, 107 Calle del Norte, just across the street from the Embassy Suites. You should be able to see what you're looking at. Looking for a great cup of coffee? Swing on by the Organic Man Coffee Trike, 1002 Ederby Day, suite number 7. Not a coffee drinker? They have hot chocolate, hot tea, and sometimes muffins and cookies. It's a great place to meet your friends for a conversation or curl up in the corner with a good book. The Organic Man Coffee Trike. Life is too short to drink bad coffee.
Though we gotta say goodbye.
No, don't say goodbye. Stay with us. This is Arkanasa Radio. Quédate con nosotros, estás escuchando Arkanasa Radio.
You're listening to Strange Things with Chris James. And welcome back to the show. We were talking about crop circles here in Texas. The next 3 reports were a bit confusing. I looked to see if this was the same report only with 3 different dates, or 2 reports with the same details. The dates and the locations kind of rule out duplication. Copperas Cove, Coryell County, February 20th, 1975. 2 30-foot diameter areas of concentric circles were discovered in an area of dry grass and shrub in an open field near a creek. The plants had been rotated down and counterclockwise by some significant force, which had moved large clods of dirt and small rocks, as well as uprooting some of the plants by the apparently fast rotation. Plants outside these areas were unaffected. A mutilated calf was found outside one of the circles. Local residents had reported seeing a yellowish-orange ball of light hovering over the farmland around the same time as the circles were discovered. One family of witnesses described seeing intermittent shafts of bluish-white light coming from the ball of light towards the ground. The Texas DPS and local police said the circles could not have been the result of a dust devil or normal wind. Then, in Whiteface, Cochran County, west of Lubbock, Texas, March 10th, 1975, this is 300 miles from Copperas Cove, the report, a perfectly round, 30-foot diameter circle of flattened, rotated grass was discovered with a mutilated heifer inside. A quarter mile to the west, a second 30-foot diameter circle area was found in a wheat field. The field had been recently planted, and the crop only stood about 4 inches high. The crop appeared to have been burnt. This circle also had a mutilated steer inside it. A small amount of radioactivity was detected by the local sheriff's department, who contacted Reese Air Force Base to come out and inspect the site as well. The sheriff reported overhearing one of the military officers express some concern over the radioactivity level. True to our government, the Air Force personnel refused to expand on their findings, and now they claim that nothing was found and there was nothing odd in the area. Then, May 5th, 1976, Fort Worth, Texas. This one will be 100 miles south of Copperas Cove incident. I found a reference to this incident, but no mention of the location, so I searched any anomalous incidents in Texas in May of 1976, and this was it. 2 30-foot diameter areas of concentric circles were discovered in an area of dry grass and shrub in an open field near a creek. The grass had been twisted in a circle, causing it to bend down to the ground in a counterclockwise direction. It looked as if considerable force had been used. Some larger plants had been uprooted, and a few rocks were thrown from the circle. Plants outside these areas were unaffected. A mutilated calf was found outside one of the circles. Local residents had reported seeing a yellowish-orange ball of light hovering over the farmland around the same time as the circles were discovered. One family of witnesses described seeing intermittent shafts of bluish-white light coming from the light as it moved towards the ground. I tried to find out whether these 3 reports were the same, only misdated, or maybe 2 of the discoveries of crop circles that had the same basic details. All the information dealing with crop circles had these listed as separate incidents. In 1995, a perfect 30-foot diameter ring was discovered in pasture grass along U.S. Highway 183, just north of Seward Junction. Nearby, a flattened arrow was found pointing directly at the circle. Aside from driving 225 miles up there and trying to track down any witnesses, this is all the information I could find. Now really, you see something wild like this and that's all you have to say? Sabine Pass, Jefferson County, November 30th, 2005. A single 40-foot diameter circle was discovered in the reeds and the marsh grass along the side of Highway 87. The circle was flattened all in one direction, much like what was reported in Mendon, New York, where a reed circle reported in October. These circles were not swirled like just about every crop circle out there. A wire fence ran through the circle, and the plants were pushed up against it. The circle was difficult to access because the area surrounding it was under 1 or 2 feet of standing water. That being a marsh, there were fears of alligators and water snakes. Hurricane Rita passed directly over Sabine Pass, Jefferson County, Texas, when making landfall on September 24th, 2005. Since it was mentioned, I went ahead and looked up the New York report. October 14th, 2005, an elliptical-shaped circle, 60 feet at its longest point, was discovered in the bulrushes in the remote section of Mendon Ponds Park. The plants in the circle were flattened, generally all in one direction. Richard Chapman investigated the circle and found slightly higher radiation readings in the circle as compared to the normal background radiation. He was using a 1960s-era Geiger counter. I wonder if Bauer and Chorley will try to take credit for this report as well. Goldthwaite, Texas, February 18th, 2011. This is not a crop circle, but still it's a circle of unknown origin. The rancher said he arrived at his ranch late one night and headed straight for bed. He awoke the next morning and saw the circle in the dirt. The larger of the two was about 45 feet across, and the smaller one was inside the larger. It was about 30 feet across. The really puzzling thing was, these were near-perfect circles. The rancher took photos of the circles to show to anyone interested. There were no tracks leading to the artwork, and the ranch is in the middle of nowhere. Who could have snuck onto the ranch just to sketch out such a thing? The rancher was curious as to how these circles were made, so he took some time to walk around looking for prints or tracks. There were none. There were no markings showing where the perpetrators could have entered or exited the circles. All the roads in the ranch are dirt, and if you've ever driven on a dirt road, you know how they store signs of your passing. I spent enough time in the Border Patrol working sign cutting. I pulled plenty of drags, and no matter how anyone tried, there were ways to see if anyone had crossed these marks in the dirt. The noisy, negative, nasty naysayers will tell you these crop circles are all just the doings of a bunch of kids with nothing better to do than commit hoaxes. Or they say it's all caused by weird windstorms. These skeptics will climb a mountain to tell you it's nothing, rather than stand next to you and try to see what it really is. I can understand someone who believes in Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster spending time and money trying to prove these critters exist. Why on earth would anyone who didn't believe these things spend time and money trying to prove they don't exist? Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. You can't prove they don't exist. So why not go do something constructive with yourself, like building a better mousetrap? I know most crop circles are created by artsy-fartsy folks who giggle to themselves a lot and spend way too much time in their parents' basements. There are way too many crop circles that don't fall in line with these works of art and produce destruction. Dr. Horace Drew, the 61, holds a Ph.D. in chemistry from Caltech. He says advanced alien species could be using plants to communicate peacefully with humans. Crop circles are real and contain hidden messages from aliens or human time travelers. Dr. Drew says crop circles could contain hidden messages from aliens. He revealed that he had a lifelong fascination with UFOs after seeing an unidentified silver windowless craft hovering near his home as a 10-year-old in Florida. He moved to Australia in 1980 and has been studying crop circles for the last 20 years. Dr. Drew said that the study of particular plant arrangements had led to at least one major breakthrough, the discovery of a more advanced binary code than that used by our computers today. Additionally, other crop circles show schematic images of the future for astronomical or human events. He said, when humans want to talk with dolphins, we put little bubble circles under the ocean with a generator. We watch the dolphins come up and play and investigate, and we study them. He added, no U.S. president has ever said to a dolphin, "Take me to your leader. I want to sign a treaty with you." The extraterrestrials are not interested in making a treaty with us. They are ahead of us like we are ahead of the dolphins and the whales. His second theory is that the messages are not even for us, that they are left by human time travelers from the distant future as directional markers. He said there are definitely humans living there in about 5,000 years with time travel capability. They're coming back and flying all over Earth. The crop circles seem to just say, this is a certain day, and they mark it. So the trouble is, we don't know space-time physics enough to understand what's happening. It's beyond our knowledge. If crop circles are being left by time travelers, this would kind of explain things. You come back in time, but you can't make contact with anyone. You spend all that time and money, and now you're here. So now what? Leave a mark so the next time traveler will know you were here. A problem a lot of folks have when trying to describe crop circles from an alien angle is people assign human thought process to alien beings. How can we figure out what or why if we don't think along the lines as those beings from other planets? Talk about thinking outside the box. How about thinking outside our galaxy? W.C. Levengood, the BLT research team, wrote a paper on crop circles. The BLT? What is the BLT? The Burke, Levengood, and Talbot research team. His paper was published in Psychologia Planetarium. In his paper, evidence is presented which indicates that structural and cellular alterations take place in plants exposed within the confines of the circle-type formations. Differences which are determined to be statistically significant with compared with control plants taken outside the formation. These transformations were manifest at the microscopic level as abnormal nodal swellings. Nodes are the small round parts on the stem of a plant where the leaf grows. Gross malformations during embryonogenesis and charred epidermal tissue, significant changes in seed germination and development were also found. And at the microscopic level, differences were observed in cell wall pit structures. Affected plants also have characteristics suggesting the involvement of transient high temperatures. Other abnormalities include enlarged both laterally and longitudinally plant stem nodes, The fibrous knuckle-like protuberances found spaced along plant stems beneath the seed head, technically called a pulvini. Bending at the base of the plant stem is a totally separate condition which is thought by many people to indicate that any formation in which it is found is genuine, not mechanically flattened. This type of bending is found at the very bottom of the stem, where it comes out of the earth, and is often quite pronounced. Have you ever tried to bend tubing? You wind up kinking it unless you use a tubing bender. Well, the same holds true with the stems of these plants. When a board is used to stomp the plants down, the base is kinked over, causing a flattened shape. True crop circles, the base of the plant is bent as if using a tubing bender, so the stem is still structurally sound. I watched a show one time where the so-called investigators came out with a steam machine to blast the stems with as they tried bending the crops. It kind of worked, but as far as I can remember, no one ever showed up with a Plant Steamer-O-Matic 3000 to show how it could be done in the real world. Expulsion cavities, holes blown out at one or several of the plant stem nodes, are most often found in the second node beneath the seed head. However, in recent years they are being seen also in the third and fourth node, down the plant stem, as well as occasionally occurring in the top node. These holes are thought to be one of the plant's abnormalities caused by exposure to microwave radiation, which, particularly in circles which occur in young green crops, instantly turns the plant's internal moisture to steam. We're going to take a quick break right here. We'll be back, so don't go away. You're listening to Arkanasa Radio. Do you have skin? Would you like to take better care of it? Call Lourdes James, independent beauty consultant, and set up an appointment. Call 723-3019. If your vision isn't what it used to be, and you're not sure you're seeing Bigfoot or just your neighbor mowing his lawn, stop on by Del Norte Optical, 107 Calle del Norte, just across the street from the Embassy Suites. You should be able to see what you're looking at. Looking for a great cup of coffee? Swing on by the Organic Man Coffee Truck, 1002 Iturbide, suite number 7. Not a coffee drinker? They have hot chocolate, hot tea, and sometimes muffins and cookies. It's a great place to meet your friends for a conversation or curl up in the corner with a good book. The Organic Man Coffee Truck. Life is too short to drink bad coffee.
Though we gotta say goodbye.
No, don't say goodbye. Stay with us. This is Arkanasa Radio. Quédate con nosotros, estás escuchando Arkanasa Radio.
You're listening to Strange Things with Chris James. And welcome back. Hopefully I haven't lost too many people with all this scientific language. Stunted, malformed seeds and germination effects. There are 4 basic changes to the seeds and the germination capability in crop circle plants documented so far. These radically different reproductive effects depend upon the species of crop involved, the growth phase of the plant at the time the crop circle occurs, the composition and intensity level of the energy system involved, which appears to differ slightly within each event as well as from event to event. The Beer-Lambert principle, a clear indication of the electromagnetic nature of the energies which cause node length changes in crop circles, is the discovery that in some formations, node length changes decrease from the center of the circle out to the edge in a very precise manner. In fact, these node length changes were found to agree with a well-known law in physics, the Beer-Lambert principle, which describes the absorption of electromagnetic energy by matter. In these cases, the node length increase was greatest at the center of the circle and decreasing as a function of simple distance away from the center and towards the perimeter. Simple English: the further from the source of energy, the less effect on the plant. That's why the plants in the center show higher levels of electromagnetic energy. Laboratory replication of crop circle plant changes, apical node, that's the first node beneath the seed head, elongation and expulsion cavities, those are holes blown out at the lower plant stem nodes, have been induced in normal plants in the laboratory by placing them in a commercial microwave oven for about 20 to 30 seconds. It is microwave radiation here that is heating up the moisture inside the plant stem, which, as it turns to steam and expands, it either stretches the more elastic fibers at the top of the plant, or it blows holes in the tougher nodes farther down the plant stem. So now the skeptics will all begin to claim 2 old guys with a souped-up microwave steam machine are out there making all these crop circles. If you'd like to read more on all the details that I skipped because they're just way too many, you can go to www.bltresearch.com and read to your heart's content. A good thing they do have lots of pictures to enjoy as you go through the text. The physical changes documented in crop circle plants by Michigan biologist W.C. Levengood have been determined by evaluating hundreds of sample plants, both downed and standing, taken from the inside of overall perimeter of each formation against hundreds of control plants taken at various distances outside each formation in several directions. More than 350 individual crop formations from multiple countries over a 10-year period were examined. The early formations were simple circles, not much to see other than a round spot. Soon these circles had other circles, some large, others small. In later years, more and more sophisticated and precisely drawn geometric figures appeared. All the significant formations were found in an area in close proximity to major research facilities of the British Defence Establishment, often in controlled airspace. Why there of all places? Was there some connection with these crop circles in the military? Just maybe the aliens were telling other visitors to avoid these places. Or maybe they were saying, come and have a look, and keep an eye on these folks. 2.5 decades and some 10,000 formations later, crop circles have grown to complex mathematical fractals, in lengths up to 3/4 of a mile, and covering areas as large as 200,000 square feet. Crop circles, or agroglyphs, can now be found in most countries around the globe. An estimated 20% of crop circles cannot be explained as being made by people, while the other 80% are most definitely man-made. Since the release of the movie Signs, crop circles have been thrust into the limelight. Some major publications, such as Scientific America and U.S. News and World Report, have echoed the common belief that all crop circles are made by stealthy humans flattening plants with boards. This assumption would be fair enough if we had no information suggesting otherwise. However, intriguing data published in peer-reviewed scientific journals clearly establish that some of these geometric designs found in dozens of countries are not made by pranks with planks. In fact, a study about to be published by a team of scientists and funded by Lawrence Rockefeller concluded it is possible that we are observing the effects of a new, as yet undiscovered energy source. There are a number of observations that have been made over the years that seem to indicate that there are particular characteristics that genuine or non-man-made formations appear to exhibit. Now, one of our wealthiest citizens is beginning to wonder what's behind the crop circles. Lawrence Rockefeller is funding research into the mystery. Someday, maybe we'll find out if it's UFOs or maybe it's just Bigfoot performing graffiti. There have been some circular formations found that, while not in any crops, are still worth mentioning. How about an ice circle? Lake Baikal in southern Siberia is unique in many regards. It is the oldest, deepest, and largest freshwater lake on the Earth. The sediment deposit on the bottom of the lake is more than 4 miles deep. Who knows which strange and unique fossils might be down there? Many of the species of fish that thrive in the waters are not found anywhere else on Earth. As its ice cover normally lasts until June, astronauts on the International Space Station were alarmed to see a very large circular formation near the southern end of the lake in April of 2009. To their astonishment, there was also another feature above the submarine ridge that divided the lake. Although the origin of these circles is a mystery, the distinct pattern would suggest that maybe warm water was being brought to the surface by hydrothermal activity. At least that was what they wanted to believe. This activity was never seen before, and it hasn't been seen since 2009. The images of the lake look exactly like crop circles, only on the ice. There were strange goings-on at a farm in England back in January 2008, when a flock of sheep made their own version of a crop circle. About 100 of these woolly creatures formed an orderly ring, which baffled the farmer as well as passers-by. A photographer, Russell Bird, who captured the amazing scene, said, "I was quite taken aback. I couldn't believe what I was seeing." Bizarrely, he then spotted another circle 3 fields away, but was unable to take a picture with both formations. They both lasted about 10 minutes before dispersing. The only reason the circles came to an end was the farmer came in with a tractor and some food. Let's face it, we live in a strange world. The truly strange things that the skeptics can't explain usually drive them nuts, which is a lot of fun for folks like me. If you do stumble upon a crop circle, try to think how best to describe it. Say to yourself, this might be the only description of this particular circle, and years from now, some guy is going to try to do a show using your tidbit of information. Try to get as much detail as you can. Not just a one-line report saying it was round. Get a notebook and write down as much as you can, and don't forget the time, the date, and any witnesses would be a help. Next Saturday, we'll be going over some weird and useless medical practices from the past. This should make you say, what the heck were they thinking back then?
Are you coming to the tree where they strung up a man the same murder three. Strange things did happen here, much stranger would it be if we met at midnight in the hanging tree.
I can no longer sit back and allow communist infiltration, communist indoctrination, communist subversion, and the international communist conspiracy to sap and impurify all of our precious bodily fluids.